Hello and welcome back to the Shutter Sports Refresh. This is the weekly show that breaks down all of the most important news in sports for you. I'm your host Finn Noel, and let's get right into this week's episode with some football. Week 3 of the NFL season is upon us, and it was the strangest week of the season so far. There was a lot of strange upsets this week, with the only non-strange upset coming from the Kansas City Chiefs as they took down the lowly New York Giants. The Chiefs started the season off at 0-2, so it's nice to see them prove the doubters wrong. Now, speaking of New York teams, the other New York team in the NFL, the New York Jets, had an exciting matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Jets were down big in the fourth quarter, but managed to score 21 points in 10 minutes to come back. But if there's still time on the clock, then you have to worry about Buccaneers quarterback Baker Mayfield. He led his team to his third game-winning drive of the season already, and the Buccaneers took down the Jets with a 36-yard field goal. And in other news, the LA Chargers now improved to 3-0 on the season with a last-second field goal to take the win against the Denver Broncos. Let's move over to college football now, where the biggest game of the week was between the schools of IUs. That's right, the University of Illinois and the University of Indiana were facing off. Coming into this game, both teams were undefeated on the season, but that had to change. And you'd think because both teams were undefeated that this would be a close one, but no, it was Indiana all the way through. Their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, threw 5 touchdowns in the game and only missed 2 passes. Indiana overall as a team had 250 rushing yards, which is just ridiculous. They dominated this game 63-10, and the win was never in doubt. Congrats to Indiana on the win. Will Indiana continue to be this hot going into the rest of the season? You'll have to come back to the refresh next week to find out. Let's move over to baseball now, where we are creeping closer and closer to the MLB playoffs. Now, the first American League team has officially clinched a playoff spot in the Toronto Blue Jays. With that win to clinch the playoffs, the Blue Jays have now hit 90 wins on the season. But their performance this month overall has not been too great, so they've left the door open for some other teams still to surpass them before the end of the season. And one of those teams looking to pass the Blue Jays is the red-hot New York Yankees. Their MVP candidate, Aaron Judge, was injured for part of the year in the summertime, but now that he's back in the lineup, the team is doing great. And the other team that could surpass the Toronto Blue Jays would be the Seattle Mariners, who are even more hot than the Yankees. They've gone 9-1 in their last 10 games and have stolen the AL West division from the Houston Astros. Now, some other playoff hopefuls in the American League include the Detroit Tigers, Cleveland Guardians, Boston Red Sox, and the aforementioned Houston Astros. Moving over to the National League now, there are 2 teams that have clinched the playoffs in the Milwaukee Brewers and the Philadelphia Phillies. They've both also clinched their divisions. And as for that third and final division in the National League, there is still a massive battle going on between the LA Dodgers and San Diego Padres. As of right now, the Dodgers are in the lead with a 3-game advantage, so we'll have to see what happens there. Now, the Chicago Cubs recently clinched a wildcard spot in the National League, which means there is only one more playoff spot open for one of the Cincinnati Reds, New York Mets, and Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, a quick check to the MVP race. I mentioned Aaron Judge. He is currently in the lead for the American League MVP, but not behind him is the Mariners' Cal Raleigh. And in the National League, it's been Shohei Ohtani all year. It continues to be Shohei Ohtani. Let's move now to some interesting news in basketball. Earlier this week, the NBA announced a new European league looking to get going in 2027. The NBA is looking to add some of Europe's biggest teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid to form a 16-team Super League. Their hope is to move the North American game of basketball over to Europe and continue to have NBA branding. We'll keep you all posted if any new information about this league drops. Moving on to F1 now, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix went on this week. And the winner was Max Verstappen, taking his second straight as he goes on a bit of a late surge this season. Now, Verstappen is currently third in the driver's standings behind Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Now, neither Piastri or Norris were second or third in this race. That means Verstappen made a huge jump in the standings. Now, in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, in second place was George Russell of Mercedes, and in third place was Williams's Carlos Sainz Jr. So now, if we look at the driver's standings, Oscar Piastri is currently in first with 25 points ahead of Norris, and Norris is now only 70 points ahead of Verstappen. So it is possible for Verstappen to jump into the top of the driver's standings before the end of the year, but it will take a lot for him to do it. The next F1 Grand Prix is on October 5th, the Singapore Grand Prix, so we'll see how he does then. And for our last piece of news this week, let's do a bit of a check-in on European soccer. In the Premier League, it is still Liverpool on top, still undefeated. They have 15 points, 5 points ahead of Arsenal, Bournemouth, and Tottenham. In La Liga, it is Real Madrid who's 2 points ahead of Barcelona in the standings. In Serie A, it is Juventus up top. In Bundesliga, it's still Bayern Munich, and in Ligue 1, it is still PSG. And the Champions League had their first match day of the year this week, but we'll give you more news on the Champions League once they've played some more games. And that is it for this week's episode of the Shutter Sports Refresh. I've been your host, Finn Noel, and I hope you learned something today. You can check me, Shutter Sports Media, and our writer Lucky Roberts out on Instagram right down here. Thanks for watching.